up now. This is more of the same. We've been making a hell of a lot of noise for like an hour or so. And yeah. Wars kill kids. No peace, no war. We want our kids to know peace, not war. We've got to stop joining the US in weapons, in making weapons for wars that shouldn't even be waged. They don't even bother declaring war anymore, they just say, oh, it's terror. They didn't win the war in Vietnam. They didn't win the war in Afghanistan. They destroyed Iraq, claimed they were going to rebuild it, but they're just sowing seeds of dissent wherever they go, and Australia follows along like a little lapdog. I don't care about human rights. We sell weapons to anybody, doesn't matter. We have guided missiles and misguided men, we do. It's the men that tend to want to get out there and make the weapons and make lots of money out of weapons. Well, the women want to care about nurture. I mean, that's not, there's plenty of women out there that are warmongers as well. There's in the armed forces, in weapons companies, as well as coal and oil, mining. Look at Gina Reinhardt. Now we've got people like Peter Dutton in charge of defence, one of the biggest warmongers that there is. You know, they created a special department for him, the Home Affairs, to bring all the police and border force and everyone together. But of course, and they're really down on refugees. And where do you think the refugees come from? They come from war-torn countries that we sell weapons to. So if we're going to sell weapons to people and make their countries unlivable, and they get their families killed, their children, their uncles, their grandfathers, they get their livelihoods taken away. You know, maybe like someone I saw the other day, he had a bakery in Palestine. His whole bakery has been bombed to smithereens. It lasted for 35 years, even though they've been at war all that time. Well, they've been occupied by Israel, which is supported by the US. And Elbit, the Israeli weapons manufacturer, is here. Their weapons are well tested on Palestinians. Rheinmetall is here from Germany. The government has just opened up the floodgates for all these international weapons companies to come here and rape and pillage our industries. Our young minds are being they're giving scholarships to teach our young people about STEM, science and technology and maths and everything, so that they can be engineers to make their next batch of weapons, to find more efficient ways to kill people. Enhanced lethality, they call it. And those are the minds that should be going to try and help us out of this shit show that we're in with the climate. We've been hesitating for like 30 years. They've been putting off, you know, back in the 80s, there was policies, there was a greenhouse office, there was a policy on the climate, and it's just all gone backwards since then. And, you know, with the oil companies coming up and putting furphies up, like saying that there's such a thing as clean coal or natural gas, perfect natural gas, you know. It's still a fossil fuel. Just because it comes out of the ground, well, coal comes out of the ground too. Is that natural coal? So yes, our young people need to be working out how to fix this, the shit show that we're in, the real threat of the climate. Yeah, imagine spending 30 billion on schools. Free education. Why can't we follow countries like some of the Nordic countries who have free education and warmongers are coming into the weapons expo. This expo sells weapons particularly to Indonesia, Asia and the Pacific. To many countries known for human rights abuses. In West Papua, people just want to be free. They have this huge gold mine there that the government of Indonesia protects for the owners. So it's not really even controlled by government. It's controlled by huge corporations. We don't even bother to protest the governments anymore. It's the corporations. If you read Scott Ludland's books, he talks about state capture. And it's actually the corporations that own the government. You know, you look at Michael Smith and see the revolving doors. How 1 minute people are working for the government, next thing you know, they're in charge of a weapons company. People, and the other way around. It's the military-industrial complex that Eisenhower warned us against, like back in the 50s. You know, back when the weapons industry used to only come online when there was a war, like the Second World War, and then they would stop. You know, all the factories get researched, building bombs and guns, munitions, and then they would go back to making bombers or sewing machines or whatever they'd been making before. But now we're setting up for permanent war. We've been in Afghanistan for 20 odd years. We've got a war economy. People say, oh, we can't do it. We can't live without it. We need the jobs. And it's been proven that there are many more jobs in climate. Has anybody got a comment to make that I can answer? Well, one thing too, can you hear me? People watching. So we've already been protesting for 3 days. I hope you've seen or more, since last Thursday. So last Thursday, people climbed up on top of some autonomous tanks, these little tanks. It's like child-sized tanks, like the size of a cubby house. But they're actually autonomous drones. And so they can go out and kill people without even, just with people not even being there, with remote control. And if you look at the Killer Robots project, you'll see that any weapons that are controlled by AI are inevitably flawed because they don't have a human being using any ounce of compassion or judgment that they might have, you know. They have facial recognition in the US, can't recognise the difference between black people. You know, we've already had many, even with the drone strikes that have been going on for years, we know that there have been many innocent people killed by drones just because they've been nearby someone who's a target. You've got these drone operators sitting there in an office halfway across the world, pressing a button. They've been told, oh, this is the target. And maybe the only reason that he's a target is because he's got a mobile phone that was near a target. And yeah, there was a story about a whole family. There was a phone left in someone's ute, and this whole family and everyone in it were blown up just because they had a phone that didn't even belong to them. And this often happens, and mistaken identity. I mean, this shouldn't be in the first place. We're just creating terrorists. We've got children who've grown up in war, 20 years of war. That's a generation who were born into war. People in Palestine, generations born into war. We've got some German wording here because Rheinmetall is one of the weapons manufacturers that we've got here, and we're in solidarity with the people in Germany protesting about them. Yeah. Someone says, tell us about Palestine. I'm sorry, I don't even really know that much about Palestine from, you know, what I've been hearing. Yeah. I know that they were sending bombs over into, mostly homemade bombs, over into Israel. But like everyone knows, you know, Israel retaliated by smashing down whole buildings and killing families and villages and destroying infrastructure. 250 odd people, whereas I think 11 Israelis were killed. But then Israel has the weapons intervention technology created, you know, with all the money that they get from the US. It's a totally uneven match. And yeah, I mean, the Israelis have been under occupation for so long, they're angry. They want freedom. They've got this tiny little patch in the Gaza Strip. And they're locked in there, they can't leave even. But anyway, the main thing is that it's Albert is here, ready to sell weapons in Australia from Brisbane, from the Brisbane Convention Centre. And the people that run the convention are a not-for-profit. They have all these weapons manufacturers who are making massive amounts of profit, and yet they don't have to pay full price for their stands because the company that runs the exhibition is all subsidised with grants from the government, from our money, and yet it's just a sales conference. Why should a sales conference be subsidised by government money? Why should they not pay tax? Who pockets the difference? Is it cheap display stalls for the multi-billionaire companies, or is it go into the coffers of the organising group, facilities managers? One of these weapons manufacturers in our country, a weapons expo was shut down in Canberra some years ago by protesters, and they decided it wasn't worth it. They didn't go back there again because the police said that the organisers would have to pay for the extra police if they ever came back, if they came back and did another expo. So they decided it wasn't worth it. That's what we want to see here in Brisbane. We don't want any weapons exports anywhere in Australia. We want to stop the export industry. The main reason for the export industry explosion is because of all this free money that the government's giving them. They give them grants, they give them subsidies, they give them tax cuts, you know. Well, we pay for everything through the nose. Well, we have to pay for education. Our young people get out of school and they go to uni and they end up with a $30,000-$40,000 debt. You know, that's the time in their lives where they should be saving up to buy a house. Or going to Europe, you know, backpacking the world or something. Instead of that, having babies. Instead of that, they end up with a $30,000-$40,000 debt. You want to give them free childcare? How about giving them free education so that they can afford to pay childcare? To be here for. And in New Zealand, they shut down the weapons expos in New Zealand. We can follow New Zealand's lead. They had a nuclear ban years ago, banned nuclear submarines from coming into their waters. You know, and that's going against the ANZUS Alliance. So nothing bad happened in New Zealand. We think that we have to follow the ANZUS Alliance all the time. Why? Like, as if America's going to help us. They're just laughing at us now with our government threatening China. Like seeing a CNN report saying, well, you know, as if Australia's going to be able to stand up to China. They're like, I don't know, is it 50 times our... We've got 24 million people. I don't know how many's in China, but a hell of a lot of people. They got nuclear weapons. They got massive landmass. You know, they're our closest neighbour. They're our... Oh, still really noisy. I don't know if anyone can hear me. Are still arriving. Lots and lots of police. We've got WILP here, the Women's International League of Peace. Talked to a woman earlier. They've been but Quakers were blocking one of the other doors. And before that we had the students, the socialist alternative students, people coming from all over, from Canberra, Sydney. Well, so I spoke to someone from Canberra. I'm from Canberra. There's people here from Melbourne. They got out just before the shutdown. And from Sydney, Newcastle. So the Quakers are still at that entrance. Let's see if we can see the Quakers. doing a silent vigil. Still people entering, still people protesting. This is an easy protest you can do, just get out with a pot and a pan, like they do in lots of other countries. You don't have to make anything, just get something out of your cupboard.
Genocidal policy enforcers!
Oh no, they got Zelda. They're arresting the wrong people. They should be arresting Peter Dutton for crimes. He's promoting war. His solution is just to kill people. He keeps refugees in jail for like 8 years, and they're already war-torn, coming from war-torn countries. They're already traumatized. And we've got New Zealand again. New Zealand is such a good example. We've got New Zealand have offered to take 150 refugees per year. Years ago they made this offer, and they've just reminded us again that they've been making this offer for years. They've got a bit of humanity. Where's our humanity? Where's your humanity, Peter Dutton? I don't see any humanity. I don't see any humanity in the weapons companies making a profit from war, from people who've lost their husbands, wives, children. No, and here we've got some soldiers coming down. All dressed up. I wonder if any of them served in Afghanistan. Killing kids for money, yeah. We've heard from people like David McBride, who's telling us when he was a military lawyer, he saw lots in 2013 and the years before that. He saw lots of war crimes committed. He reported it to his superiors and their superiors and right up the line, and nobody gave a damn. Nobody wanted to know. And then years later, finally someone else has a look into it, a woman, and they decided to commission the Barat report, which took 4 years, and they said everything that David said was totally true. One of the things that he said was that some SAS officers who he saw or heard about the brutality that the war crimes that they committed, they would just get medals and get promoted up the line. And he doesn't actually blame the soldiers because they are trained to be they're trained to shoot people. They have to learn how to just treat people like inanimate objects, targets. They never call them people, they call them targets, or whatever, so that they can assuage their conscience about killing these people, not thinking about the fact that they're human beings, fathers, brothers, sons. So then you go and get the SAS and you let them loose in Afghanistan, We're supposed to be like a peacekeeping force in Afghanistan at that stage. We're supposed to be helping them rebuild. But what are they going to do? They are trained killers. So of course they're going to kill. That's what they do. And they can't tell the difference between friend or foe, because really, what is the difference between friend or foe? It just depends on what side of the road you're on. What side of history. Like in Vietnam, they couldn't tell the difference between friend or foe. Especially in countries where they don't wear uniforms. It's not like the old English battles where you got reds and blues against each other. They still were just as dead, but at least they knew who they were fighting for. Now we don't know who we're fighting for. We're fighting for the corporations to make them rich. That's what we're fighting for. They're the only ones who profit. old dog bowl or a saucepan lid. Get out there and make a lot of noise.
Keep on feeling you weak now.
Some time ago we heard from a drone operator, Lisa Ling. Lisa Ling in America. She was a tech person. She wanted to work in the tech field. She joined the army. They put her in, with the armed forces, which brand, but they put her in the desert in some small building in front of a computer to locate targets and shoot people with drones. They send over a drone and someone else who she didn't even know why these particular people were targeted. And then after they finished, they had to go back and count the body parts to see how many people they killed. They would watch the house for days. They might see she told us about, the dad coming home and playing with his kids in the backyard. Just like any dad coming home from work. And then he was going off to go to a meeting about a sabotage operation. Really, he's just trying to protect his kids and his family from the US. They see the US as the enemy, not their saviors. They want to be free. They don't want to be told what to do. The US is just being like a colonial power. They kicked out the English. And ever since they've been trying to colonize everybody else. Yeah, okay. Where? Not sure what's going on here. I just want to film it just in case there's an interaction between the police and protesters. Can't actually hear what they're saying. Our friends from West Papua.
Country to speak out to the international community to continue to oppose the world because that is act of crime against you. Our Australian politicians using their power to support the harm, bomb and tank to create illegal to assembly here to kill West Papuan people right now.
We stand with Papuan people. West Papua being colonized by Indonesia. They're Melanesian people. They're not even related to the Indonesian people particularly. They're independent and strong. They want their own country. They want their country back. They have a different culture. Indonesians are racist towards West Papuans. They call them monkeys. There was a massive big protest recently, last year. Oh, maybe the year before, maybe pre-COVID. And students were called monkeys. students, West Papuan students going to university in Indonesia called monkeys. Racist slurs, which created a massive big protest across the country. And the government even turns the internet off when they have a big clash like that, because they don't want the world to know what they're up to. And yet we still sell weapons to Indonesia. 24 million people in Australia, 240 million people in Indonesia.
And then quickly our Australian file for leading on organization. So today we will together with the human rights activists all over to speak against this industry initiative that is prepared to show their
Would you like to say something for the live feed? Would you like to speak to the live feed?
Yeah, sure. Hey everybody, we're at the Brisbane Convention and Exhibition Centre. Resisting Land Forces Weapons Expo that's happening the next 3 days here. It's so great seeing all the people of Queensland come out. The Queensland government sponsoring this event will claim that we want weapons manufacturing jobs in this state, but we don't. We don't want to profit off the next war. We don't want to profit off the next war crimes. We don't want to profit off the next colonisation of Indigenous people or the destruction of our planet comes the military-industrial complex. We want to be out here, take a stand for peace, and so that means resisting land forces. So we've been out here all morning, picking up a fuss, making it as uncomfortable as possible, people coming in and trying to make sure there's not another gathering of dodgy weapons companies in this state, in the middle of our city. And so, keep sharing, keep checking out Disrupt Land Forces, come down, there's 2 more days this after this, come down and be a part of resisting the military-industrial complex and making a better world.
Thanks, guys. One of the great things about this week is that we've got people from all over. We've got WILF, we've got Union of Australian Women, we've got IPAN, which is the Independent and Peaceful Australia Network. One of the things IPAN is calling for is an investigation into war spending. You can put in a submission and tell them what you think about the way our money is being spent. Go to the IPAN website.
Right now in the middle of
We support West Papua, we support Palestine. Still people arriving. Maybe they were waiting thinking we were going to go away, but we didn't. We've been here since 7 a.m. or earlier. I wonder if the Quakers are still there. The Quakers have been doing a silent vigil in front of one of the other doors. They sat on the steps this morning. You might have seen that photo where blood, fake blood, was thrown down the steps to indicate that they've got blood on their hands. They trade in blood, they trade in children's lives. Let's go and see if the Quakers are still there. We had 3 entrances this morning. We had the Socialist Alliance at one entrance. Then a lot of people came up to this entrance, made some noise. The Quakers stayed here. And then everybody went to the next entrance. They're going now, I'm wanting to see.
Legitimises their war crimes. You can refuse to participate. You have a choice. You're a human being. You're human beings and you have a choice.
There are plenty of jobs.
You refuse to participate. You don't need to be a part of this.
Plenty of other jobs that can be had. Especially at the moment, they reckon unemployment's low. I mean, even though, you know, you only have to work 1 hour a week to be counted as employed. But there are plenty of jobs in saving our planet, in creating... Yeah?
What? Yeah. She's fine. Yeah. Did you see her get arrested?
I'm on live feed now. Do you want to talk about it? Okay.
So we're here outside Disrupt Land Forces. You can see people filing in with suits representing arms company. A couple of our friends have been arrested. You know, they're charging people with making a public nuisance, but the biggest nuisance, the biggest disturbance to the public, the biggest distress is the work of these men. Look at them. They're mostly men in suits trying to be respectable, but what they are doing is completely unrespectable. It's despicable. Right now, in Western Sahara, in Palestine, in Amazonia, in Tibet, in West Papua, in so many places around the world, including our country, people are being harassed by men with weapons. And it's got to stop. We've got to get in the way of it. And that's what we're doing all week, trying to get in the way of it. It's not respectable, and we need to stop it. And everyone can play their part.
And this week we've got everyone here coming together. We've got the Socialist Alliance, we've got Quakers, we've got environmental people, we've got refugee advocates, and we're all banding together because war covers all of those topics. War creates refugees, war creates global warming, war takes resources away from fighting climate change. Our real threat, they're supposed to be our defence force. Our real threat is not people sitting, you know, children in hospitals in Yemen. Our real threat is climate change. It's not climate change, it's climate heating. They call it climate change to try and, because some people think they can get away with just saying, oh, it's just a change, it's fine, it's happened before. It's never happened this fast. It's happened over millions of years, not just over a few decades. You see the Quakers are still up there? Silent vigil. It's like they're holding the Great Hall. Talking to the people coming in, going. It's morning tea time now.
What happened are not fair.
Quakers have been fighting for peace for some 350 years. They've always protested, they've always believed in direct action. They've often do things like these silent vigils. You might have seen the Quakers when we were protesting Pine Gap, blockading the road to the weapons to the spy base in the central of Australia, Pine Gap. They sat there with their bonnets, their Quaker bonnets, their 150-year-old Quaker bonnets, and set out a lovely little table with tea and scones and brownies and chatted with a beautiful tablecloth and teacups and chatted with the police and the army representatives to try and bring attention to the base, the spy base in the middle of Australia, where drones are targeted from, where countries are spied on the information given to America. We're part of Five Eyes, so we spy on everybody. The drone positions located for Canada, England, Australia, and I guess New Zealand must be the other one. Yeah, I mean that definitely makes us a nuclear target. They stick Pine Gap right in the middle of the desert, because Alice Springs has only got 25,000 people, so if we have a nuclear bomb, then it'll only kill 25,000 people and decimate all the Aboriginal lands around there. Minimise the casualties. And Australia just goes along with whatever the US wants. Even though the US has started more wars, they've been at war constantly. Because war makes money. It's all about capitalism. It's a rampant capitalism. And yeah, if they're so good at making money, why is the government subsidising them? Why is the government giving money grants to people like EOS? EOS Australia, Electro-Optic Systems, have a factory in Canberra. Well, two factories. They have one in Canberra, in Hume, and one in Queanbeyan, right next to Canberra. And the one in Hume, they build laser guided systems to go on top of tanks. That means people can sit in their comfortable offices or in the tanks, these armoured vehicles, and hit targets a mile or two away. Another unfair advantage, they're often targeted at villages who have sticks and stones. Sometimes homemade bombs, yes, and they're trying to protect their families. And if you listen to Clinton Fernandez, he's a professor at the University of New South Wales. He'll talk about state capture, as does Scott Ludlam, about how it's the weapons industries and the fossil fuel industries that really own our country. They tell the government what to do, how to spend their money, what policies to make. And they get kickbacks, they get cool jobs. They get jobs on the board of directors. You get a job on the board of directors, you only have to go to work once a month, and that's probably just a Skype call or go to a meeting once a month. And you might get 40,000 for this job, 50,000 for that job, along with your pension, your military pension or your government pension. Yeah. So the weapons company or the fossil fuel company makes a few thousand, 20,000 or something, and make a donation to to the politicians to make sure that their policies are put forward, despite the fact that they're going to keep creating climate change or war with other countries. And no morals at all. It's all about the quick buck. You know, politicians' life is not very long, oftentimes. So they have to get as much money as they can in before their time is up, before they're voted out. The Union of Australian Women. We'll see if anyone would like to speak to the camera. I'm on Facebook on live feed for Disrupt Land Forces. Would you like to talk to the people on Facebook about what you're here for? Or what UAW is? Okay, thank you. I'll have to go quite close because of the noise, if you can speak fairly loudly.
We brought the UAW flag because the UAW has been in existence since the 1950s. Peace, international peace, non-violence, campaigns against war toys, been part and parcel of the UAW's existence since the day one. And we've worked closely with women's and children's rights issues as well. So this is very consistent with a long history of fighting against war. That's why we're small progress still exists. We thought we'd bring out our banner today.
Awesome.
UAW is a member of Justice.
Oh, yeah? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Great to see you here. Lots of different groups coming out. We've got people whose main focus is environment. We've got Extinction Rebellion people. We've got Friends of the Earth. We've got unions. We've got WILP, the Women's International League of Peace. Got lots of police represented. They must be getting overtime. Stand around. Benny, who we often see. Benny's been around for a long time. You see him in Canberra, we've seen he's been around overseas. I'll stop the live feed now. I might come back later when if anything changes. If they start to try to get us to leave.